Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and today we're taking another look at some great knives that fly a little bit under the radar. Here are some more hidden gems of the knife world. Let's check them out. So one of the problems with living in a golden age of cutlery, which I fully believe we are, is there's so much out there that a lot of the real deserving stuff does rise to the top. You get some really awesome stuff. The bad part about that is they kind of grab the lion's share of the attention and crowd out some other stuff that's also quite good. So that's what we're looking at in this particular series. This is the second episode of this we've done. I'm going to start with a couple of very affordable options that aren't getting talked about too much, but I think they should be. The first, we're going to start with the kind of micro knife genre with the REVO Knives Vipera. Really nice small knife. Regular price on this is about $27. If you're watching this as this video is posting, we actually have these on sale for just over 24 bucks, which for what you're getting is actually quite good. And before we get into the materials, the design intent behind this particular knife was to give you a small blade, but still give you maximum control over that blade itself, which is just over 2 inches long. And that handle actually does a pretty good job. It's got a tapering shape and it's wide enough that even though it's just a 2.5 finger grip, it manages to feel quite secure, which is really actually a hard thing to pull off these days. But as for materials, you've got G10 for the handles themselves, liner lock, and a deep carry pocket clip, which is nice. And for the blade steel, you've got a stone-washed 9CR stainless, which if you're unfamiliar with that stuff metallurgically, it's essentially 440C, which when you're talking at 24 bucks, getting something like 440C, the materials quotient is really working out in your favor. The liner lock holds it open, holds the blade open quite nicely. It folds up, very compact. This would be a good keychain knife if you took that pocket clip off, if that's your thing. A little bit slower to open than some out there, but quite easy enough with that little thumb hole there. And then you've got a nice, capable, small blade. Enough length there to do most daily carry things you might need, and enough of a tip there to be able to pierce, open up some of those really annoying packages you might pick up nowadays that can give you a lot of trouble, can even like give scissors a lot of trouble. Even this would have no problem with that. Very cool little knife, and if you're in the market for a small knife, especially on a budget, I would not overlook this. Now, perhaps even more impressive than this knife when we're talking about that materials thing again, Ultra X is the brand, and this knife is the Hugger. Regular price, $27, which is the same base price as that REVO, and for that you are getting a 440C blade on this much larger knife. I mean, we've got a 3.5 inch blade here. This one has a black stone-washed finish. It's really nicely done. We've got G10 handles with a liner lock, deep carry pocket, sorry, not a deep carry pocket clip, just a standard clip, and ball bearings in the pivot. You know, it used to be all these materials would have been much more expensive. And it got to the point where, you know, we're thinking like the $50 D2 steel ball bearing flipper was like the gold standard for budget performance. Think about the budget here. We're almost half price of that awesome genre of knives. And in fact, you can upgrade the Hugger to D2 and it only comes in just over 30 bucks, like not even $32 for some of those. Really impressive specs, and the design behind it is nice and solid. Great do everything blade shape right there, everything from your daily carry to some outdoor stuff, even tactical stuff. That blade's gonna do just about everything. And the flipping action is exactly what you would want from a more expensive knife, but you're only spending 28 bucks for something like this. Hard to go wrong. All right, since I mentioned tactical usage with that knife, that's gonna lead us to the next. I've mentioned Kizer's Vanguard line as being kind of a kind of diamond in the rough, some really cool stuff that's getting overlooked, but I wanted to spotlight this one in particular right now for an affordable tactical knife with a glass breaker built into the back. That combination of features doesn't exist as much in the more budget-oriented realm. And this is not a super cheap knife, price-wise anyway. It's also not super cheap construction-wise. It's actually quite good. $69 for these right now. This is the Kizer Justice. Two versions currently. You can get it in blue G10 with a plain-edged, non-blackened blade, or this combo-edged with the black stonewash combined with the khaki G10, or what do we call it? Tan G10. But it does the job really nicely, and it's still gonna be a great EDC folder too. 3.7 inches N690 steel, ball bearing pivot with excellent action. I love Kizer's Vanguard action these days, and you get that glass breaker at the back for added utility and a deep carry pocket clip as well. Hard to go wrong. It certainly indexes well with the blade closed. You can get a real nice grip on this handle to utilize that glass breaker. Then when you're ready to fire the blade, either use that flipper or use the thumb studs. Because you got a liner lock there and no frame lock to kind of get in the way of your opening action, those thumb studs work fantastically. All right, next up, we'll go to a gentlemanly tactical knife with a Boker Plus model. And the crazy thing about Boker is when you're comparing like the average size of any given manufacturer's lineup, I'm not sure anyone has more than what Boker does worldwide. They have so many models. So even if we restricted this video to just hidden gems of the Boker lineup, we'd still be able to fill out an entire video. But this isn't hidden gems of the Boker lineup, it's hidden gems in general. But the Boker I want to show you today is the Roundhouse. It's a classy looking knife for about 95 bucks. And it's got, to me, the shape and everything, it's got tactical personality written all over it. We've got a D2 blade, 3 3/4 of an inch, and sort of a semi-pistol grip style to the handle. It's gonna angle the blade down, make it a little easier to point towards what you would like that tip to make contact with. But beyond that tactical usage, we've got a little bit of fanciness here with the carbon fiber and the copper accents. I'm actually not sure if it's real copper. Yeah, it does look like it's patinaing just a little bit already. And it's a comfortable as all get out handle too. It's contoured, it's shaped just right so that it feels very, very good, especially in that saber grip right there. Not the most comfortable folder in the world, but it definitely deserves to be mentioned when we're talking about folder comfort. And then the blade shape, you've got the tactical usage because of the angles and everything, but it's just a nice, versatile daily shape. Full flat, or almost a full flat grind with a long swedge. We'll call that a straight clip point, but that is going to be so useful day to day. Milled pocket clip here as well, another fancy detail. Flipping action, very, very good. Definitely check that out if you're in the market for a relatively affordable gentleman's knife, or even just fancier tactical knife. So speaking of kind of fancy tactical, this next knife is a little bit of an enigma. It's kind of straddles a bunch of different genres. The Maserin AM4 flipper. These are, I think, very cool knives. Priced about $286 for its standard price. You've got an M390 blade, 3.7 inches long, with that very distinctive Tonto profile and a nice, very deep, full length, essentially full length swedge right there. Very striking blade. But then the handles, I think, almost completely outshine the coolness of the blade. Carbon fiber with wood inlays. This is a burl wood. Not actually sure the species, but you get a really cool amount of figuring going on and several different dyed colors to choose from. I really like the orange. The green is also really, really nice. Interesting profile when closed. You can see the blade completely hides within that handle itself. You've got a subtle squared off flipper tab that works very, very well. Ball bearings in that pivot, of course. Big, comfortable feeling in the hand, striking visuals without feeling gaudy at all. And then one more thing hidden up its sleeve. Got the ghost clip there at the back. Kind of pops out of the spine. This is not the only spine mounted clip out there. There are other knives that use this feature, but it's definitely more of a rarity. But you could certainly carry it in a pouch or a pocket slip without that popped up if you wish. It's fun to pop it up and down if you like. Very, very cool knives to check out. All right, this next one kind of has a nice blend of classy and semi-tactical vibes too. The Real Steel H7. The whole H series is really nice, but the H7 I think is especially noteworthy. There's a few different colors. This is the all blacked out version. Price is very reasonable for what you're getting here, just under $63. You've got a milled aluminum handle here. Again, this one is black, and you've got a Sandvik 14C28N blade here. Awesome, versatile day-to-day shape as well, 3.5 inches, pretty much a full flat grind with the swedge, and backlock has that nice David Boy style dent right there. You've got a pocket clip on the right side. You've got another feature in this too, which I'll get to in a moment. Folds nice and smoothly. You can even flick that blade open, which isn't always something you can pull off with a lockback. Now, remember when I said there was one extra feature? First off, I'll talk about that David Boy style dent again. They don't credit him explicitly here, but that is a feature that he came up with. Reasoning behind that is because it's cut away just a little bit, if you're really gripping that knife hard, it's a little less likely that you might accidentally depress that lock bar. But if you're still worried, give this lanyard fob here at the back a quick little pull. And actually, it shows up better on the front. See that little tab right there, that little stud? Whether you pull it from the fob or you pull it from the stud, if you engage that towards the rear of the knife, you've essentially locked out the lock back. You cannot disengage that lock back now. It presses a little bit, but you're not going to actually lose the locked position on your blade until you push it forward again, and away you roll. Really, really nice. There's a couple versions, like I mentioned. I really like the gray and silver version. There's also a one-hand opening version of this knife that doesn't have the thumb studs, which can be important for some folks out there. But really impressive what you're getting for the construction, the materials, and the extra features for that low price. Not necessarily bargain basement, but again, just under 63 bucks is extremely reasonable for what you get right here. All right, now we're gonna drop the kind of tactical pretense and just to get to some really nice, fancier knives that I don't think get as much credit as they deserve. And the first is one I have shown on this channel before because I happen to be a big fan of it. It is the Viper Belone. It's a Jesper Vaknes design, coming in, this one at least, about $196. Several versions of this are out there. This one has, well, they all, I believe at this point, have an M390 blade, about 3.35 inches. Very cool shape. Nice sweeping belly, acute tip, high flat grind. You've got pretty much all the versatility of most of these other blades, but with a little bit more personality, shall we say? Really, really like that. And it flows into the handle quite nicely too. You've got a very graceful shape, nice and slender overall, whether open or closed. And then with the ball bearing pivots, even that little small protruding flipper tab at the back works exceptionally well. Very nicely done. Handle construction, you can get it with titanium or carbon fiber onlays over the titanium liners. These are anodized gold, but other anodized colors are available too. Deep carry pocket clip, which is not reversible in this case. Technically, actually it is, but it's curved to match the spine of the blade, so it's gonna look a little funky if you move it over to the other side. I just can't say enough good things about how classy and how excellent this knife is for a gentlemanly knife that still has enough reach where you can do jobs with it that you might not want a smaller knife, for instance that REVO we looked at first, to be able to do. I think that was a sentence. I lost track of the way I started it by the time I was finishing it, so if it wasn't, I apologize. Bullet points though, awesome knife. All right, next up we have a Fallkniven, and it's interesting. Obviously Fallkniven is more, in this country at least, more known for their fixed blades, but they do make a number of really nice folders. Also in recent years, we've seen a bit of a rise in modern takes on the Barlow knife. Fallkniven have had a modern take on the Barlow for years. It's the GP, the gentleman's folding knife, and it hasn't really risen along with the tide of the rest of the modern Barlows, so we're checking it out now. This version right here is about $229. You've got a 3-inch blade, I think just over 3 inches, with a laminated blade steel. There you can see the line differentiating the outer cladding and the core itself. And you've got their cobalt, their COS blade steel there. Very high performance, pretty tight grain if I'm remembering correctly, but very good edge retention overall with that classic spear point Barlow style. Flat saber grind, hint of a swedge at the tip. Fairly robust for such a smaller knife overall. That's not just due to the blade thickness, but also the handle is exceptionally well built. Liner lock, steel bolsters, and this one has a polished linen micarta handle. Super timeless look, that particular combination. It's gonna look just as good 20 years from now as it did 20 years ago. Next up, we have a Castillo, which you don't see a lot of Spanish knives in this country, which is a shame because this one is pretty cool. This is the Muralla or Muralla lockback. I'm not sure, it's Spanish, so the double L is Y usually. So is this Muralla or Muralla? Commenters, chime in. About $119 for this knife, Sandvix 14C28, and here as well, a hollow saber grind, versatile spear point shape, but it's the embellishments here that kind of set it apart. We have a Bocote wood handle and some really nice treatment on the liners, both with some black liners flanking either side of the metal and some nice cutouts there. Fit and finish is maybe a little rough around the edges on these, I will admit, but the style is so nice. Feels really good in the hand. The lockup is one of the better lockbacks I've ever felt, quite honestly. It is super solid. I can just barely induce a hint of up and down rock, but even then I'm really pushing for it. Very nice. Would go really well in a pocket slip, because of course there's no pocket clip on this knife, but something different that is really sweet. Speaking of pocket slips, I almost forgot. The Fallkniven we just looked at does come with a nice suede leather black pocket slip, which is pretty cool. And last but not least, you knew I had to have at least one fixed blade in every video because I'm me, the Kellam Wolverine. These knives are superb, especially when you consider the price. We're about $114 for this full-sized version with the 3 3/4 inch blade. This is classic Finnish puukko styling done exactly right. The fit and finish is there, the handle comfort on these stained curly birch handles, you really have to feel to believe. Made the old school way, they really knew what they were doing because these were knives that had to work through the harshest conditions. You don't want your handle to be biting you back. I think maybe one of the reasons like the modern bushcrafter might overlook this knife is it doesn't have that crisp spine all of the time. I've seen some examples that are crisper than others, but this one, they definitely go for comfort. Again, you don't want your knife to be biting back when you're using it. And if you're gonna be pressing out here with your thumb, that's where a crisp spine can kind of get in the way a little bit, but to each his own. The Scandi grind here is fantastically done. It is razor sharp. And the steel they use here is metallurgically, it's nothing, you know, the bragging rights aren't here. This is a classic carbon steel, but it's differentially heat treated. Again, at this price, incredibly impressive to see. And we even have Rockwell numbers here. 52 Rockwell at the spine and the edge 63. So when you combine those two things together, they're able to give this steel a lot of edge retention given its metallurgical base, but yet with that tougher spine, they bring a little bit of strength back to the structural elements of the blade itself. Really cool to see. And again, I can't keep stressing enough everything you're getting for this price. You even get a classic Finnish style sheath here. Just a classic pouch with the loop there on the back. There's even a smaller, roughly 3-inch version. It's about the same price, because again, most of the same stuff, the cost on this knife goes into how it's made, not the little extra length on the blade itself. But again, I really can't recommend these knives highly enough. If you're looking for a more premium bushcraft knife, something to step up from the Moras that you might be used to using, and especially if you want something with a connection to the land where the kind of bushcraft movement came from. this is the knife you should take a look at for sure. All right, that's all I've got to show you in this episode of Hidden Gems of the Knife World. Let me know what you thought of these knives, and let me know what your picks for some other great but overlooked knives are down in the comment section. To get your hands on these knives, links in the description are going to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget, our Knife Rewards program exists, because if you're going to be putting your money down on one of these knives today, might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time.